So you think it's primarily wrong if somebody is consistently not accepting things? Well, here's what the deal is. It's never a child's fault they're not accepting. It's never any student's fault they're not accepting at all. I mean, the only way for anyone to get accepted is to act acceptable, and that's the deal. There's no controversion, no nothing, no argument, no negotiation. You have to act acceptable. That's just the way it goes. You see, it's very rude to assume somebody has it in their genetics to accept. You need to kind of think about what they deserve to hear. You gotta keep in mind you wouldn't be able to recognize that person's behavior is acceptable, though not what you expect. I mean, it's perfectly okay if maybe they say no to something. It's for not to do things. And it makes it easier to live in the mainstream of society if we act acceptable. Because people can't really make do with the mainstream if they have to do what they don't deserve. And see, it's also unacceptable to assume that somebody's gonna do something to you that they were never known to do. I mean, you may have a sensitivity, but they have a right to be told certain things. And I think because somebody who has to accept something that they didn't do anything to deserve ends up looking accused of the situation, makes them look kind of guilty, even when they're innocent, don't you see? I mean, is that fair that they should have to put up with you over the way you act sometimes? I mean, a lot of people, when they have to accept refusals that they've never deserved, often end up with serious attention deficit disorderly conduct to a response that makes a person look responsible for the situation. They often have to fight just to keep themselves safe. And a lot of people will threaten those who make refusals that they wouldn't cause anyone to do. Then it ends up getting police and other people of authority involved, and some people face law trouble over somebody else's uncalled for attitude. It's not even adaptable to tell someone that they have to leave you alone because they don't show respect for times when they need it. I mean, that's not fair. I mean, you don't know that about someone. I mean, most people always do, and if there's a chance at all, you just don't care to listen to the fact that, they have to be told certain things. That's not nice. I mean, some people just have to be told certain things. There's at least a 60% chance you will have that problem. So you do have to keep that in mind. And a lot of times when it comes to unresponsiveness to taking things, it really doesn't work half as good. I mean, if you take a look at these 9 different slices of bread, you'll see all these aquamarine things appearing on. That's mold. I mean, people become moldy just as good. I mean, their abilities, they're meaningless and starts getting moldy if they have to tolerate all sorts of unresponsiveness and forgetfulness consistently. I mean, they're not the ones responsible for your responses. You are. You were told in 10th grade speech class that you were responsible for your own responses. You should know that. You can't just take the situation like it's no big deal. I mean, you can't just say that somebody's not needed anywhere just because they don't get a response. I mean, almost anybody can understand that, but if they don't have the genetics to accept, they can't help it. There's just no way. It just doesn't work. I think it's kind of unfair that people end up molding because you don't care too much what happens. I mean, you gotta stand up for someone who's getting refused. You gotta make sure you tell someone that they have to be told certain things. And whether or not they listen to your wishes, you still have to listen to theirs. I mean, they're the ones with the medical problem, so they have the right of way. Therefore, now if we did realize the fact that at least 60% of the world's people do not have the genetics to be able to accept, we'd probably realize that someone was behaving acceptable and they could live in the mainstream, and they'd feel a quit of doing things to people that aren't even imaginable, and they are legally accepted to something that's known to help people and never harm them to begin with. We can prevent at least 95% of the attention deficit disorderly conduct or responses that make a person look responsible for a situation. We can prevent all these threats and such. There won't be a need for police or other people of authority having to have trouble with the law over this, if you see what I mean. And more people would get gold medals trying to do these things. It's for trying to do a helpful deed, if you see what I mean. That's one thing you gotta keep in mind. So I want you to pay close attention. The deal on this situation is if somebody asks you whether or not they did anything wrong to you and have to be told certain things, your answer is no, you didn't. You're perfectly okay. You do not repeat a direction to someone. You do not but simply tell them that they didn't understand a direction. They do understand, and that's it. That's That's a fact. If it's reported you've been saying that to a lot of people, there's going to be a machine in there listening to you and says, tell him what he deserves to know now, or I'm going to turn you in for prejudice, well, whatever. And also, very unacceptable to try and hold a direction against anyone who says no to you. I mean, they don't do anything to deserve it, and so therefore, there's no reason why they have to do those directions for nothing. So if that person tells you they don't follow those directions, they already have a plan for things, you're going to listen, and you're going to go, I see that. And if you even dare try to demonstrate how to follow directions, just remember that person has a court order to threaten you, to tell you to get out of their way. They have that right. People have a right to threaten anyone who tries to make it look like they don't understand. And if somebody feels like they got left behind, they have a right to ask, and they're going to be told whether or not it happened. If it's reported you've been just telling people to just sit down and wait, there's going to be consequences. I mean, in this one story of what happened to Gary, you probably noticed in this one part of chapter 13, he threw a bottle and it broke all over the place. Had some teachers who thought he was responsible for the absence of one. And that looked bad on his part. I mean, he wouldn't even do anything to make his parents and teacher absent. So therefore, he had to fight his way out. I mean, I think that there's at least going to be a 60% chance someone will do that to you if you don't. So you better keep that in mind. I mean, there is no such thing as learning how to accept. Either you have it or you don't in your genetics. And you don't require a neurophysiology to fix it unless whatever's listed on the list of primary behaviors at zero tolerance is done. Whatever it's reported you've done one of those, then you have to go to the neurophysicist to have that repaired, but not otherwise.